This is a true story set in 2003. Explorer Alan fell while climbing a canyon during the fall. His right hand caught on a rock. The suddenness of the accident took Alan by surprise. When he regained consciousness, he was trapped in the valley. Alan tried desperately to get out, but instead of letting go of the rock, his arm tightened again. Despite the pain, he tried to pull the rock out with his left hand, but the rock wouldn't budge, no matter how hard he tried. So he kicked and pushed with his shoulders. He used his body's inertia to hit it. He tried everything he could, but it was as if the stone was frozen. He was tired and wanted to rest, but his ribs were about to be crushed. The pain continued. Desperate, Alan called for help, but the vast canyon was deserted. He couldn't see a living thing. With no help in sight, Alan had to find a way to save himself. He looked in the bag to see there were lots of tools and less than half a bottle of water. For now, the knife seemed to be the most useful. Then he starts chiseling away at the rock face, but it wasn't long before his hands began to ache. He had been doing this for hours. He only managed to chisel a few splinters. He wasn't careful, and the knife fell into a crack in the rock. Alan bent down to pick it up, but couldn't reach it. He took off his socks and found a branch. He then grabbed it with his toes and hooked it bit by bit. At last, the job was done. He finally raised the knife, but he realized that the blade was dull. He had no choice but to sharpen it. Alan didn't take a sip of water overnight. He uncorked the bottle, then he took a sip and savored it in his mouth. His legs couldn't support him much longer. He had to find a way. He took out the rope and threw it upwards dozens of times. Finally, the rope caught on a rocky outcrop. He then tied the other end to his waist to distribute his weight. At last, he could get some rest. Before he knew it, the sun was shining through the cracks in the gorge. This man has been exposed to the sun all day. He has to keep trying to survive. The man pricks his arm with a knife, but feels nothing. He's been stuck for 24 hours. All the cells inside are dead. But what worries him even more is that he has less than 300 milliliters of water left. He's given up on polishing the walls because the blade is dull and the walls are unchanged. It's night again, and this time he's clever. He tied everything to his body for warmth. Then he opened the only bag of bread he had left and ate it. When he'd finished, he couldn't resist a drop of water. He couldn't even pee to stay hydrated. He spent the night half asleep, half awake. On the third day, he kept trying to escape. He wrapped a mountaineering rope around the rock. He tied it securely and connected the top rope to a carabiner. A simple pulley mechanism was in place. Whether he pulled with his hands or kicked, the rock didn't move. After working so hard for so long, it's a lost cause once again. It's midday and the water's almost gone. Alan remembers the beer and drinks from the party. If he wants to get out of here, he has to drink enough. Fantasy isn't an option either. At this point, he could only take sips in a planned manner. Suddenly, Alan felt a strong urge to urinate. He unbuttoned his pants and peed. Perhaps it was because he'd been holding back from urinating for so long. So he took out a water bag to collect the urine. Shortly after nightfall, he began to learn from his experience. The pulley device is useless because hiking rope is elastic and small. There's no point in sharpening a knife on a rock face. All it does is tighten the arm. He begins to prepare for the worst. He took a cotton rope out of his water bag. It's a good tourniquet, and he ties it around his arm. Then he tightened it a little with the carabiner. Then he starts cutting his arm, but the blade is too blunt. It doesn't even cut through the skin, and he's exhausted. He tried to drink water and spilled his water bottle. All he could do was watch the water go to waste. He was desperate. In his drowsiness, he thought of his family and his girlfriend. He found comfort in his heart. Suddenly, a deafening clap of thunder brought him back to reality. He opened his mouth wide and unscrewed the cork from the bottle. The rain poured down in torrents, but soon, the torrential downpour poured into the canyon's crevices. In no time, he was up to his neck in water. At the last moment, the rock is finally pushed up by buoyancy. He's free. Alan climbed into his car and sped home, but his girlfriend took one look at him and closed the door. It was all a dream. He had begun to delirium. By the end of the day, he drank all his water. Waiting any longer was a dead end. It was time to end it all. This man drinks blood and urine to survive. He's trying to survive after thinking of 100 ways to escape. He's learned one thing: he can't escape without using a crazy method. He pulled out a knife and stabbed himself in the arm. A stream of dark red blood came out, but the bone was too hard for him to cut. Pulling out the knife and taking a sip of blood didn't quench his thirst. He had no choice but to drink his own urine. The smell was unbearable, but there was no other way to keep him alive. Another day passed, and he became more and more delirious. One hallucination followed another. One was particularly bizarre. A sofa appeared in the cave. His friends and family were sitting in front of him, watching. He had no time to think. At this point, there was only one way for him to survive. He gritted his teeth and began to break his bones. With a crack, the first bone shattered, and it continued to break, and finally the second bone snapped. He covered his pain with laughter. Then he pulled out his knife, and little by little, he cut his arm. The pain almost made him faint. An hour later, he finally succeeded. Now, his arm stayed in the crevice of the stone. He stayed motionless for a long time, then he slowly regained consciousness. He simply dressed the wound and took his things to leave. Before leaving, Alan took a photo of the broken arm with his camera. He thanked his arm and turned away from the canyon. Alan looked at the sun and was happy. He noticed a pool of water at the bottom of the canyon ahead of him. He slid down the facilities left by other climbers. He descended to the bottom. Then he dived into a pool of water and drank. But it wasn't enough. When he had finished, he filled his bottle and threw away all his luggage. On the road, Alan's energy ran out. He fell and struggled to get up. Just as he was about to faint, he saw three figures in a trance. He screamed at the top of his lungs for help. Finally, the man who had been trapped for 5 days and nights was rescued. The film is adapted from a true story. Alan gradually recovered at the end of treatment. A few years later, he married his wife and had a lovely son, but he still loved extreme sports. He loved nature. After this incident, he became stronger. In the case of life, it's not life itself that's vulnerable, it's the will that governs it.